So hello everyone. Today I'll be discussing to you the chapter 10, which is the mercury in fish, wherein mercury is one of the water pollutions. So we all know that water pollution occurs when harmful substances, often chemical or microorganisms, contaminates bodies of water, degrading its water quality and rendering it toxic to humans and to the environment. So now, let us define first what is mercury. So, mercury is a chemical compound with a symbol of Hg. It has an atomic weight of 80. It is commonly known as a quicksilver and formerly known as hydrargyron. So, it is called a quicksilver. It is because it contains heavy silvery D-block element, and it is the only metallic element that is liquid in standard conditions and pressure. Another is mercury is also used in laboratories for making thermometers, barometers, diffusion pumps, and many instruments that could be poisonous to human. So, what are the sources of mercury? They are categorized into two types, which is the natural sources and the man-made sources. In natural sources, mercury occurs naturally in soil, sediments, and rocks. Another is volcanic eruptions and wildfires. While in man-made sources, it includes the coal combustion, incineration of medical waste, and chemical manufacturing. So, mercury totally occurs naturally in the environment and cycles among the atmosphere, water, and sediments. Human activities such as coal burning, power plants, and waste incineration increase the amount of mercury cycling in the environment. Mercury that is released to the atmosphere can be transported long distances and deposited to the aquatic ecosystems, wherein it can be potentially be methylated to methyl mercury. So, methyl mercury, it is the most toxic form of mercury. It bioaccumulates in organisms and transferred through the food chain to other animals and humans, primarily through fish consumption. So, how mercury being transported to the aquatic ecosystem? Number one, rain and snow wash mercury out of the environment and into the ocean, lakes, and rivers. Another is, in water, mercury becomes toxic form, which is methyl mercury. And then, another is, fish species consume methyl mercury. So, that's how mercury transported to the aquatic ecosystem. So, as you can see in the diagram, it explains that the majority of mercury released to the environment is into the atmosphere. So, mercury emissions come from a variety of sources and may be emitted in several forms. So, mercury eventually deposits to watersheds and receiving waters where it can be converted to methyl mercury. It is a highly toxic form. There is a mercury that can enter the aquatic food chain through bioaccumulation. Let us come now to the bioaccumulation and biomagnification of mercury. The most important pathway for mercury bioaccumulation is through the food chain. So, as illustrated in the figure, in the water, plants and small organisms like plankton take up mercury through the passive surface absorption or through food intake. For autotrophic organisms, which do not eat other organisms, passive absorption is the only route of exposure. So, the amount of mercury that results in these species from even a lifetime or passive absorption is not generally harmful to the other organisms. On the other hand, heterotrophic organisms may be exposed to dangerous concentrations via a second route. So, methyl mercury biomagnifies through the food chain as predators eat other organisms and absorb the contaminants that their food sources contained. Over time, an individual who consumes plants or prey contaminated with metal mercury will acquire level greater than in either its habitat or its food. While biomagnification occurs, the concentration of a pollutant increases from one link in the food chain to another. For example, polluted fish will contaminate the next consumer and continues up to the trophic food web as each level consumes another and will result in the top predator containing the highest concentration level. So let us come now to the aquatic mercury cycle. As depicted in the diagram, atmospheric deposition contains the three principal forms of mercury. Although the majority is inorganic mercury, once in the surface water, mercury enters a complex cycle in which one form can be brought to the sediments by particle settling and then later released by diffusion or resuspension. It can enter the food chain or it can release back to the atmosphere by volatilization. So, that's how the cycle of mercury happens. So, let us come now to the mercury levels in fish. They are categorized into three: high, moderate, and low. So, these are the list of fish that contains mercury. So, it contains high mercury in bluefish, mackerel, which is the king Spanish in the Gulf. Number 3 is marlin. 4, orange roughly, sea bass, shark, swordfish, tilefish, and tuna. While the moderate levels of mercury is the bass, stripe, and black carp, cod, the Alaskan one, and then the croaker, white Pacific, halibut, jacksmelt, lobster, monkfish, perch in the freshwater, sabifish, snapper, and weakfish. Under the low levels is the anchovies, butterfish, catfish, clam, crawfish, croaker, the flounder, haddock, hake, herring, mullet, oyster, perch, plaice, pollock, salmon, sardine, scallop, shad, shrimp, sole, squid, tilapia, trout, and whitefish. So what are the impacts of mercury to human health? So number 1, mercury causes neurological and behavioral disorders. Another is it can harm kidney and thyroid. And high exposure of mercury can lead to death. So who are the risky people to mercury? Number 1, the pregnant woman and the nursing mother, the young children. How could we reduce mercury exposure? Number 1, know your fish. Large fish such as tuna and swordfish live longer and absorb more mercury from the sea. Try to limit your consumption of larger fish and option for smaller one such as the salmon or shrimp. Another is detox mercury, which includes the medical treatment and home remedies. Number 1 remedies is you could eat more fiber so that your body naturally gets rid of mercury and other potential toxic substances. Eating more fibers help to move things more regularly through your gastrointestinal tract, resulting in more bowel movements. Another is drinking more water. So mercury is also eliminated in urine. So drinking extra water can help to speed up the process. Alright, so that's it. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I hope you have learned a lot about the mercury in fish. Thank you so much.